Let's learn how promises can run step by step using .dead method. This example demonstrates how promises can run in sequence and then return results when they are available. Here is my boilerplate code, and we are going to be making this example together. If you look at my script section, I have about 3 comments that is pointing us and guiding us on what to do. The first one says we should make a function to display something. The second one, then the 3 functions that needs to run in steps will be added here, and after then we will run the 3 functions and display the result. In my HTML part, I really don't have anything to be added there. So let's move on to the script tag and look at how this can be achieved together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a function to display something. So let me call the function my displayer, and let it accept a parameter of sum, and inside it I can set how to get out my result when I'm finally done with my the other functions that I have in my code. So this is where I am defining a function that will be responsible for displaying my output at the end of the day. Now the next comment says 3 functions to run in steps. So this is where we need to make 3 different functions that needs to run step by step in order to get us a final answer that will be displayed to us on the screen. So let's go ahead and make those functions. So the first thing to make that 3 functions is that I need to create it as a promise function. So I'll go ahead and make the function, let me call it step 1, and then inside this step 1 that we have, I'm going to just return a promise resolver, promise.resolve, and put a number. Not number, rather I'll put a string and call it a. So now I have the first step. So I'll go ahead and make the second function and call it step 2. So this step 2 is going to accept a value, and it is also going to return a promise resolver, promise.resolve. So this time around, it is going to return whatever value is inside it here plus another string b. So I'll go ahead and make the third function as well and call it step 3. This also is going to receive a value that is sent from step 2, and it will return a promise resolver as well, promise.resolve, value gotten from step 2 plus another string, which is letter C. So now you can see that I have already defined the 3 functions that will be needed according to what we have inside this comment as instructions. So let's move ahead. Now, when we're talking about promise chaining in JavaScript, what exactly does it allow us to do? So promise chaining allows a synchronous function to run in sequence. So that basically means that once this first function runs, then it will move to the next, until it reaches the end of those functions that are in sequence. That is, if you have multiple of those functions, it will continue to execute them one after the other. So that exactly is what promise chaining allows us to in JavaScript. Now, it is now time for us to run the 3 functions instead. When it comes to running promises, how exactly do you do that in JavaScript? Well, JavaScript provides a method called .then, which allows us to chain our promises together for execution. So I'll go ahead and call the method. And how do you call the method? Well, it is not something that is hard. So you call the first step, which carries the function of the step 1, and then you call the .then method, and inside this .then, what do you want? So we just want to run our function, and whatever value is inside it, and once that function is run, we want it to return whatever the output is from that function and add it to step 2. So it will be saved inside step 2 as value. Now we move on, and then add another .then method and pass the function that we accept a value, so that it can return step 3 and value. So whatever we have inside step 2 will be saved inside this value, then to be passed on to step 3 as value, and then it should now be added to whatever we have inside the resolve part for the step 3. So now that we have this, it is now time for us to display our function, and that is where the function to display something becomes handy. And how do you display it? Well, we'll just call the function name. So whatever results you've gotten, we are basically telling JavaScript, okay, now it's time for you to display it for me. So call the function and then pass the value of whatever you've gotten inside it, and boom, you can see on the screen we have ABC. Now this .then method that we have here waits for the promise to finish and receive its result. So when this first run, this will run initially. When it's finished, it will pass it to step 2. When this run, it will pass to step 3, and finally the result is going to now be displayed on the screen. Now this example has shown us that each step waits for the previous one to finish. So step 3 cannot execute without step 1, so it has to wait for the previous one to finish, and then results move from one step to other. As the result is gotten from one step, it is moved to the next one. Now we have also seen that .then method can be used to connect promises. See, as we keep using it to connect promises, .then. So we have it 3 times. Now, what do you think is going to happen if we have like 10 or 20 or hundreds of these kind of functions? Well, it can become too long and hard to read. So what does JavaScript now do instead? So JavaScript introduced something called async and await, in order to mitigate against long chain of promises being chained together. So JavaScript introduced what is called async await in order to make the process much more easier, flexible, and well manageable.